Commander Alan Carter couldn't take his eyes off the giant object floating in space. The massive structure had been there for who knows how long, spinning slowly at the edge of the Tau Ceti star system. For 3 weeks now, the crew of the Earth, Ship Horizon, had been studying it. The huge cylinder was 20 kilometers long and 5 kilometers wide. No human had ever seen anything like it before. "Zoom in on Section 7, Carter said. The blue light from the ship's control panel lit up his face as he leaned forward. On the big screen, the picture got closer, showing strange patterns carved into the metal surface of the object. Lisa Morgan walked up to him with a small computer in her hand. "Commander, the alien representatives from the Galactic Council want to come aboard our ship. The Zelvari aliens are very pushy about it." Carter sighed and nodded. The Zelvari were one of the oldest alien species in the Galactic Council. They had shown up just days after humans found the big structure. Too quickly, some crew members thought. The Zelvari were tall creatures, about 7 feet in height, with shiny scales and 4 arms. Most other aliens respected them. "Let them come aboard," Carter decided. "Tell Rodriguez to take them to the viewing room." The Zelvari ambassador named Kazan moved smoothly despite being so big. "Commander Carter, we thank you for letting us visit." His translation device changed his clicking sounds into English almost right away. "This old relic is very important to history. The Council will make sure it is studied the right way." Carter frowned. "With respect, Ambassador, we found it in a star system that humans plan to live in." Kazan tilted his head and the starlight reflected in his big bug-like eyes. "You found it by luck. But this object is older than when humans first made fire. The Council has rules for objects like this. Humans are part of that Council now," Carter reminded him. "Only as trial members," Kazan corrected him. "The Council has marked this structure as a Level 7 history relic. We will take over studying it." Before Carter could argue back, loud alarms started ringing all over the ship. Samantha Diaz shouted from her communication station, "Commander, 3 warships from the Corellian aliens just entered our area. They're heading straight for us." The Corellians, lizard-like warriors from the outer part of the galaxy, had been in a silent war with the Council for hundreds of years. Kazan's scales changed color, showing what Carter knew was fear. "We cannot let them get near the relic." As the 3 different groups, humans, Zelvari, and Corellians, became more tense with each other, nobody noticed that weak energy signals had started pulsing from deep inside the ancient object. These signals didn't match any known technology in the entire galaxy. The next morning, Carter called a meeting with his top officers. They gathered in the ship's conference room, all looking tired from a night of high alert. "What do we know about this thing?" Carter asked, pointing at the hologram of the giant cylinder floating above the table. Chief Engineer Jack Weber rubbed his eyes. "It's old, really old. Our scans show the metal is unlike anything in our database. It doesn't wear down like normal materials should." Lisa Morgan added, "The patterns on the surface aren't random. They repeat every 134 kilometers. They might be some kind of writing or code. Or a warning," Security Officer Pete Russell said quietly. Everyone looked at him. "I'm just saying, maybe there's a reason this thing was abandoned out here." Carter turned to the ship's pilot, Grace Kelly. "Any change in position?" "No, sir," she replied. "It stays perfectly still unless acted upon. When we tried to move it with tractor beams yesterday, it resisted with exactly the same force we applied, almost like it's waiting." The door slid open and Dr. Emma Ward walked in looking excited. "Commander, we found something. There's a small opening on the far end of the structure, perfectly circular, about 2 meters wide." Carter leaned forward. "An entrance?" "Maybe," Ward answered. "But here's the strange part. It appeared overnight. It wasn't there in yesterday's scans." A heavy silence fell over the room as everyone realized what that meant. The object was changing. "Sir," Weber said, "I'd like permission to take a small team to investigate the opening." Carter considered this. The Zelvari had made it clear they wanted no human interference with the relic. The Corellian ships were holding position just at the edge of the system, watching. Every decision here could start a diplomatic incident, or, worse, denied, Carter finally said. No one goes near that thing until we understand more about. He was interrupted by Diaz rushing into the room. Commander, urgent message from Earth Command. They say to secure the object at all costs. They're sending 3 more ships. This just became our top priority. Carter looked at the hologram again, at the massive structure that had sat silent for perhaps millions of years until humans found it. Something about it made the hairs on his neck stand up, a feeling of being watched. What aren't the Zelvari telling us, he wondered aloud? Outside the ship in the cold vacuum of space, the ancient artifact continued its slow spin, and deep within its metal shell something was stirring, awakening after countless ages of sleep. Circuits that had lain dormant since before humans walked upright began to power up, systems running long-forgotten programs. The faint energy readings from inside the structure grew slightly stronger, pulsing to a rhythm that matched nothing. In the Galactic database, the Relic had noticed the newcomers, and it was listening. For 2 days, nobody got anywhere with talking. The human ship Horizon stayed near the big space object. The Zelvari ship and the Corallian warships watched each other from a safe distance, weapons ready. In the meeting room of the Horizon, Commander Carter hit the table with his fist. This is getting us nowhere. The Corallians want to get near it, you want us to leave, and I have orders to study this thing. Ambassador Kazan's clicking sounds came so fast that his translator had trouble keeping up. Commander, there are things happening here you cannot understand. This relic comes from a time when the stars were just beginning. The Corallian leader, General Voss, showed her sharp teeth. More lies from the Council. This object is a weapon, one the Zelvari have been looking for thousands of years. Enough, Carter stopped them. This object is in human space. Until our governments make a deal, nobody goes near it without our permission. After the meeting ended, Lisa Morgan walked up to Carter when no one else was around. Sir, there's something you need to see. She spoke very quietly. We found energy coming from the structure. It started soon after the Corallian ships got here. What does that mean? It's reacting to us being here. Morgan looked worried, or maybe to the weapons on the alien ships. At the same time, on the main Corallian ship, General Voss made up her mind. The humans are too trusting. The Zelvari will take the weapon for themselves if we wait. She turned to her weapons officer. Get ready to fire on the Zelvari ship. Then we take the Relic. The attack surprised everyone. The Corallian energy weapons cut through the Zelvari ship, almost splitting it in 2. Ambassador Kazan, who was still on the Horizon, watched with horror. This is crazy, Carter yelled, ordering everyone to battle stations. All crew get ready for emergency moves. But before the Horizon could do anything, the Corallian ships turned their weapons, not at the human ship, but at the ancient object itself. They're trying to break its outer shell, Morgan said as she realized what was happening. When the energy beams hit the old structure, something strange happened. The patterns carved into its surface started to glow with blue-white light. The IR object, which had been asleep for millions of years, was waking up. No one noticed a small door open on the horizon, or saw the person in a spacesuit slip out into space, moving toward the object. Engineer Frank Nelson had his own plans, and he didn't want aliens deciding what would happen to humanity. Frank pushed himself through space, using the small jets on his suit to guide himself toward the massive cylinder. His heart beat fast, but his hands were steady. The suit radio crackled with urgent calls from the Horizon, but he had turned the volume down. Sorry, Commander, he whispered to himself. Can't let them handle this alone. The Corallian ships fired again at the ancient object. This time, the blue-white glow pulsed like a heartbeat. Parts of the surface began to move, sliding away to reveal darker sections underneath. On the horizon, alarms were going off everywhere. Carter looked at the screen showing the Corallian ships, then at the now glowing artifact. What's happening to it? He asked Morgan. She checked her screens quickly. The energy readings are climbing fast. It's waking up. Ambassador Kazan moved away from the windows, his scales now almost white with fear. It begins, he said quietly, just like the old stories. What stories? Carter demanded, grabbing the alien's arm. What do you know about this thing? Before the ambassador could answer, Samantha Diaz called out from her station. Commander, one of our airlocks was opened 3 minutes ago. Suit logs show engineer. Nelson left the ship. Carter rushed to the window. With the naked eye, he could just make out the tiny figure moving toward the glowing giant in space. Get him back here now, he ordered. He's not answering calls, sir, Diaz replied. Outside, Frank was getting close to the object. The surface was changing more now, sections rotating like a giant puzzle being solved by invisible hands. The Corellians fired again, and this time, something new happened. The beam seemed to slow down as it neared the object, then spread out over the surface like water. It's absorbing the energy, Frank said to himself in wonder. He was close enough now to see one of the dark sections that had been revealed. It wasn't just dark, it was an opening, a way in. Frank made his decision and pushed himself toward the opening. As he got near, he felt a strange pull, like the object was drawing him in. For a moment he fought against it, then relaxed and let it take him. Inside, it was not what he expected. Instead of cold, dead space, there was light. Soft blue light coming from walls covered in the same patterns as the outside, but here they moved like waves, flowing along the corridors. This isn't just a relic, Frank whispered. It's alive. His radio suddenly came to life, cutting through the static. Nelson, can you hear me? It was Carter's voice, tense and angry. I hear you, Commander, Frank replied calmly. I'm inside. Inside? Are you insane? Get back to the ship immediately. Sir, you need to see this. There's a control room or something, and it's responding to me. As if to prove his point, the walls around Frank pulsed brighter when he spoke. Panels that had seemed solid began to open, revealing what looked like screens and control surfaces. Outside, the Corellians prepared for another attack. But this time, the object responded before they could fire. A beam of energy, brighter than anything they had seen before, shot out from one of the newly opened sections. It hit the lead Corellian ship with perfect accuracy. The ship didn't explode. Instead, it simply stopped. All systems dead, drifting in space. On the horizon, everyone watched in stunned silence. Then Carter found his voice again. Nelson, what did you do? Frank's voice came back, filled with awe. I didn't do anything, sir, but I think it's protecting us. On the horizon, everyone watched as the giant object in space came to life. The patterns on its surface now glowed bright blue. Parts of it moved and turned like a huge puzzle box opening itself. Stop everything. Don't move, Carter ordered, his eyes fixed on the big screen. What's happening to that thing, Morgan? The science officer shook her head in amazement. It's waking up. The energy readings are higher than anything I've ever seen. Ambassador Kazan moved beside them. His scales had turned pale blue. Carter had learned this meant the alien was very scared. You must destroy it now, the alien whispered. What? Carter turned to him in shock. This is not just an old relic, it is why my people joined the council. The ambassador's 4 hands shook. Our stories tell of world enders left by the ancient ones, tests for new civilizations. If woken up the wrong way. On the screen, the Corellian ships kept attacking, trying to break into the object's outer shell. With each hit, more of the structure lit up. Commander, Samantha Diaz called out. I'm getting a message from inside the structure. That can't be, Carter said in surprise. Let me hear it. The voice that came through was definitely human. It was Engineer Nelson. Commander, I'm inside. I couldn't let the aliens choose our future. There's something here. I think it's a control center. The place it's responding to me. Nelson, get out of there now. That's an order. Too late, sir. It's asking for something. For input. The radio crackled. I think it wants to know if we're in danger. Before Carter could answer, the Corellians fired another attack, this time hitting the Horizon's shields. "Sir!" Weapons Officer Olivia Chen called out. "They're targeting us now." Carter made his choice quickly. "Fire back. Aim for their weapons only." The Horizon launched its defense missiles, standard Rapier-class tactical weapons. As they flew toward the Corellian ships, something strange happened. The energy field from the ancient object reached out and caught the human missiles. Inside the structure, Nelson watched as displays of light appeared around him. "Commander, it's scanning our weapons." The missiles never reached their targets. Instead, they stopped in space, caught in the energy field. Then, to everyone's horror, they began to change, their parts coming apart and rebuilding in new ways at the smallest level. "What is it doing to our missiles?" Carter demanded. Ambassador Kazan had backed against the wall, his translator barely keeping up with his panicked clicks. "It learns, it adapts, it takes technology and makes it better." The changed missiles now looked like sleek silver arrows with glowing blue centers. They hung still for a moment, then shot toward the Corellian, ships faster than anything the humans had ever seen. The destruction was complete. Where 3 warships had been, there was now only broken pieces floating in space. On the screen, the ancient object continued changing. Huge sections now moved and stretched out, showing what looked like weapon ports. "Nelson!" Carter shouted, into the radio. "What's happening in there?" The engineer's voice came back, sounding far away, almost dreamlike. "It's showing me things, Commander. History. Purpose." He paused. "It was never meant to be a weapon. It's a guardian, a protector, and it thinks we're its makers." In the next few hours, the situation became more complicated. The object, which Nelson now called the Sentinel, had gone quiet after destroying the Corellian ships. Its weapon ports were still open but not active. Carter called an emergency meeting. "Report. What do we know?" Lisa Morgan spoke first. "The object is definitely artificial intelligence far beyond anything we've ever seen. It's at least millions of years old." "And Nelson?" Carter asked. Diaz answered. "Still inside. He says he can talk to it through some kind of mind link." Jack Weber, the chief engineer, added, "From what Nelson tells us, the Sentinel has weapon systems we can barely understand. It just turned our simple missiles into something that cut through Corellian shields like they weren't even there." Security Officer Pete Russell leaned forward. "Sir, we need to talk about what happens if other aliens come. This thing just destroyed 3 warships in seconds. Every species in the galaxy will either want to control it or destroy it." Carter nodded. "Ambassador, what can you tell us? Your people clearly knew about this thing." Kazan had been silent until now. "There are stories. Very old ones. The precursors, what you call the ancient ones, built the Sentinels to protect developing worlds from outside interference. But they disappeared long ago. The Sentinels were left behind, sleeping until needed. And your people found one before," Carter guessed. The ambassador's scales rippled. "Yes, long ago. It did not end well." "What happened?" "The records are not clear. Half our home planet became unlivable. We survived, but just barely. After that, the Council made rules about these relics. Rules you didn't bother to share with us," Carter said angrily. The conversation was interrupted when Nelson's voice came through the speakers. "Commander, the Sentinel is showing me more. It was set here to protect a young species on a nearby planet. But that species died out naturally before ever reaching space. The Sentinel has been alone for millions of years, waiting for instructions that never came. And now it thinks we're its new masters?" Morgan asked. "Not exactly," Nelson replied. "It recognizes we're not the precursors, but our genetic material has certain markers similar to them, close enough to confuse it at first. Now it sees us as inheritors, the closest thing to its creators still alive." Carter thought about what this meant. "So what does it want from us?" "Direction. Purpose." Nelson's voice sounded different now, stronger but somehow less human. "It's been alone for so long. Now it's found us, similar but different, and it's waiting for new instructions." The implications were huge. The Sentinel represented power that could keep humanity safe in a dangerous galaxy, or make them seen as conquerors to be feared and hated. "Can we turn it off?" Russell asked quietly. Nelson's laugh came through the speakers. "It doesn't work that way. The Sentinel is awake now. It's watching, learning. Right now it's studying your missiles, not just how they work, but what they were made for. Defense or attack, protection or aggression. It's trying to understand us by what we create." Outside the ship, more alien vessels would arrive soon. Carter knew the choice they made now would change humanity's place among the stars, forever. The next 18 hours on the horizon were busy and tense. After destroying the Corellian ships, the ancient Guardian, now called the Sentinel, had gone quiet. Its weapon ports were still open but not firing. Inside the structure, Engineer Frank Nelson had made a connection with the ancient machine, through what he called a mind link that felt like having someone else's memories in my head. He was learning bits and pieces about its purpose. "It calls itself the Sentinel," Nelson explained, during a video call to the ship. His face looked tired, with red eyes from no sleep. "It was put here millions of years ago by a species it calls the Makers." Commander Carter leaned closer to the screen. "And it thinks we're these Makers?" "Not exactly." Nelson rubbed his head, like it hurt. "Our DNA has some parts that match theirs. That's what confused it at first. But it knows we're different now. It sees us as inheritors, I guess. The closest thing to its creators still around." Science Officer Morgan interrupted. "What about the attack on the Corellian ships? It took our missiles, somehow made them better, and destroyed 3 warships in seconds. The Sentinel was built to protect growing worlds from outside problems. When it saw weapons fire, it figured out who was the threat and responded." Nelson's voice got quieter. "But here's the scary part. It's been asleep for so long that its programming is confused. It's trying to reset based on our technology, our behavior." Ambassador Kazan, who had stayed quiet since the attack, finally spoke. "My ancestors found another such device. Half our home world became unlivable before it was finally stopped." "How did they stop it?" Carter asked. "That knowledge was lost. Or maybe hidden." The ambassador's scales moved. "Now I understand why the Council kept these objects secret." As they talked, a new problem came up. Long-range sensors showed many ships entering the star system, both Council ships and others belonging to species the humans had never seen before. "Word has spread," Kazan explained sadly. "Some will come wanting to control the Sentinel, others to destroy it. None will care about human rights to this system." Carter made his decision. "Nelson, can you talk to the Sentinel? Make it understand. We don't want a big space war?" "I think so, Commander, but it wants something from us." "What?" "Direction. Purpose." Nelson's face on the screen showed he was struggling with something. "It was left behind by its creators, set to guard a young world that grew and died without ever reaching space. Now it's found us similar but different, and it's waiting for new instructions." Lisa Morgan spoke quietly. "It's asking if we want to be its new masters." The moral questions were huge. The Sentinel had power that could keep humanity safe in a dangerous galaxy, or make them seen as conquerors to be feared and hated. Outside, the first alien ships would arrive in hours. Carter knew the choice they made now would shape humanity's place among the stars for many years to come. Meanwhile, in the deep parts of the Sentinel, Frank Nelson was seeing wonders. The ancient AI had opened more of itself to him, showing him vast rooms filled with technology beyond human understanding. In one chamber, pieces of the human missiles that had been absorbed floated in fields of blue energy. "What are you doing with them?" Nelson asked out loud. In his mind, images and feelings appeared rather than words. The Sentinel was studying the missiles, not just their physical parts, but the ideas behind them. Were they made for protection or for attack, for defense or aggression? Through the mental link, Nelson felt the machine's confusion. It had been programmed to protect, but its creators had never told it what to do if they didn't return. For millions of years it had waited, following its last orders to watch over a world where intelligent life had eventually died out naturally. Now humans had awakened it, and it needed to understand what type of guardians they would be. "We're not perfect," Nelson told it, placing his hand on a wall that pulsed with light under his touch. "Humans fight among ourselves too much, but we try to be better." The Sentinel seemed to consider this. Then it showed Nelson something new, a map of the galaxy with dozens of points of light scattered across it. "There are more of you?" Nelson asked in shock. The answer came as a feeling of affirmation. The Sentinel was part of a network, many, such guardians placed throughout this part of the galaxy, all now sleeping. This one had awakened because of the human missiles and the Corellian attack. The others could be awakened too if the inheritors wished it. Nelson called the horizon immediately. "Commander, we have a bigger situation than we thought. The Sentinel is asking if we want to wake up others like it." On the ship, Carter and his officers listened in stunned silence. The idea of having not just one, but many of these incredibly powerful guardians under human guidance was both exciting and terrifying. "What would they do?" Carter finally asked. "Protect human worlds, I think. But there's a catch. We'd have to prove we deserve it. The Sentinel is still deciding if we're worthy inheritors." "And how do we prove that?" Nelson's voice was heavy with the weight of what he was about to say. "It's testing us right now, watching how we handle this situation with the approaching alien ships. Will we try to use its power to conquer, or will we use it only to protect?" As he spoke, the ship's sensors detected the first of the alien vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The horizon now faced ships from at least 6 different species, some known and some completely new to humans. "I need more time," Carter said, looking at the tactical display showing the growing number of alien ships. "Time is one thing we don't have," Morgan replied. "We need to decide what to tell the Sentinel, and we need to decide now." The fate of humanity's future in the stars hung in the balance. The sun rose over New Sacramento Colony on Earth as news about what happened at Tau Ceti filled every screen. 6 months had passed since the standoff, and its effects were still changing how humans fit into the big picture of space. In her apartment looking over the bay, Lisa Morgan, now Ambassador Morgan, got ready for another day of talks at the bigger Galactic Council building. The events at Tau Ceti had pushed humanity forward in ways no one could have guessed. Her communication device beeped with an important message from Commander, now Admiral Carter. His image appeared in her living room, wearing the new badge of the Human Sentinel Defense Group on his uniform. "Lisa, just got word from the watching station. The Sentinel completed another system check. 3 ships without permission were stopped at the edge. They left without any trouble." Morgan nodded. "The Orion group testing us again. They'll keep pushing until they find the limits." The choice they had made that day had changed everything. When faced with whether to control the Sentinel or not, they had picked a third way: partnership. Through Nelson's mind link, they had given the ancient guardian a new purpose: to protect human worlds from outside attacks while respecting peaceful species. The Sentinel had changed its programming to match, and in doing so, had changed humanity's position in space politics overnight. From newcomers to the space community, humans were now keepers of one of the most powerful defense systems known to exist. "How's Nelson doing?" Morgan asked. Carter's face softened. "The mind connection is stable. The medical team says his joining with the Sentinel systems is staying at about 30%, enough to keep talking without losing who he is. He still says it was worth it." Frank Nelson had made the biggest sacrifice for humanity's future, becoming a permanent link between human and machine. His mind now lived partly inside the Sentinel's vast networks, guiding its decisions and making sure its power stayed for defense, rather than conquest. "The Zelvari group is asking for another meeting," Morgan said. "They're still pushing for access to Sentinel technology." "Ambassador Kazan?" She shook her head. "A new representative." Kazan was called back. Apparently his talk about their earlier meeting with a Sentinel broke some ancient council rule. The finding that the council had known about the Sentinels all along, had hidden their existence and power from younger species, had broken the 1,000-year-old alliance. Several species had left, forming new groups around humanity and its unexpected guardian. "The President wants a decision on the Proxima Centauri request," Carter said, changing the subject. "Do we extend Sentinel protection to their colonies too?" Morgan thought about this. The power to decide which human settlements got the Sentinels. Protection was a huge responsibility, one that some said gave Earth's government too much control over the outer colonies. "There's something else," Carter added before she could answer. "The Sentinel shared something with Nelson last night. It has found energy signals matching its own elsewhere in the galaxy." Morgan's eyes widened. "There are more of them?" "Yes, sleeping like ours was. The Sentinel was part of a network, an ancient defense grid covering this whole sector." My God, the meaning of this was enormous. "Does it want to wake them up?" Carter's image flickered slightly. "Nelson says it's waiting for our input, our direction." He smiled grimly. "Seems we've inherited more than just one ancient guardian." As Morgan got ready for her council meeting, she thought about how quickly humanity's place in the universe had changed. The missiles that had awakened the Sentinel had been meant as a simple defense against an immediate danger. Now they had become the key to a vast legacy left by a long-vanished race, a legacy that humanity would have to prove worthy of. Outside her window, the morning sun caught the outline of a Sentinel drone, a smaller version of the massive structure, now in Earth orbit as both protector and reminder. Its surface gleamed with the same intricate patterns, no longer sleeping, but alive with purpose. Humanity had been thrust onto the galactic stage not as conquerors or victims, but as inheritors, faced with the same choice the makers must have faced long ago: to use power for protection or dominance. On the original Sentinel, now permanently stationed at Tau Ceti, Frank Nelson floated in a chamber at its heart. His body had been modified with technology that let him survive here indefinitely. The neural link that had started as a temporary connection had become part of him, letting his mind join with the ancient AI. "Show me again," he said, and the walls around him lit up with a map of stars. Scattered across the galaxy, dots of light marked the locations of other Sentinels still sleeping. Each one represented power beyond anything humans had dreamed of before finding the first one. Each one waited for the inheritors to decide their fate. Through the link, Nelson felt the Sentinel's question, the same one it had been asking since the beginning. "Are you worthy? Will you protect or conquer?" The ancient AI had studied the human missiles that first awakened it, trying to understand the intention behind their design. It had found something there, a desire to defend rather than attack, that had influenced its decision to trust them. Now humanity faced its greatest test. The Galactic Council was breaking apart, with some species viewing humans as dangerous upstarts who had gained too much power too quickly. Others sought alliance, seeing humans and their Sentinel as protection against ancient threats. Morgan looked at the morning sky one more time before leaving for the council meeting. Somewhere up there, the stars held more sleeping guardians, waiting for humanity's decision. The missiles that woke the ancient guardian had carried humanity's answer within their design. Now they would have to live up to that promise. The end.